In this video, we're going to learn how to create the class limits for the problem that we just pretended like this one was done. So we started with the end part, and I'm going to teach you how to find these. A while ago I was trying to demonstrate what does a finished product look like. You have class limits with ranges of values. Those ranges of limits create ranges for class boundaries low and high. You have frequencies, cumulative frequencies, and midpoints. We're going to focus on where this comes from and where this comes. Where do these two columns come from? Okay. There are 4 or 5 steps to creating or identifying the class limits and the frequencies. Okay? We're going to start out with our data set. Okay? These numbers, in no particular order, represent the ages of the parents. So this is our sample data. Okay? The steps we need to use are, so these are your steps to construct the class limits, which we call CL, okay, for your grouped frequency distribution. Okay. Step number 1. Okay. You need to identify the maximum value and the minimum value in your data set. Identify the maximum and minimum values. And you're going to subtract them to calculate something called the range of the data. The range equals the maximum minus the minimum. So searching through my data list, I see 40s and 50s and 60s. The lowest value appears to be 42. The highest value appears to be 63. So the maximum is 63. The low value is 42. So the range would become 21. In statistics, we can use a capital R for range. Okay? So that's our first basic step. Okay? Step number 2 is identifying how many classes. Select the number of classes that you want. Okay. The guidelines are that the number of classes for this kind of problem should be at least 5, but no more than 20. And this is just a guideline for our problem. To keep it simple, we're using 5. Okay? So we're going to use 5 classes. 6 classes would not be wrong. 8 classes would not be wrong. 15 classes would probably be too many. Okay? Make sure you understand what does this represent. This says that between the low value of 20, the minimum of 42, and the maximum of 63, you have 21 numbers. So in reality, there are 22 different numbers in your data set. So you really don't want 20 different classes because you'd only have about 1 number per group, per class. So we're going to use 5. There's nothing magic about 5. That's just what we're going to use. Okay? Step 3, you need to calculate what is referred to as class width. Okay? Class width refers to the number of data values in each class. Okay. Now we're going to calculate this. We don't choose this. We're going to calculate this. So class width equals the range divided by the number of classes. Okay. So we had a range of 21. We had a class width of 5, or 5 classes. 5 goes into 21, 4.2. Okay. You can't use the value of 4.2 because this talks about the number of data values. So this has to be a whole number. The rule of thumb is when this is a decimal value, you want to round up to the next odd value. And there's a reason for using odd numbers. So we're going to change the 4.2, we're going to go to 5. So we're going to use a class width of 5. Okay. If you remember the problem we worked a few minutes ago, our class width was 5. Every number was 5 apart. Here, 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 and our class midpoint. So the class width becomes, in a sense, this is your magic number. I'll call it your magic number for your table, because it's going to pop up over and over and over again and make your creating the table easier. Okay. Step 4. That was step 3. Step 4 is to determine a lower class limit for the first class. Okay. If you step back over here, the first class started with 41. Okay. If you look at your data set, the low value was 42. Okay. In order for this to work, the lower class limit here must be lower than your smallest value. Okay. If I had made this a 44, then there would have been nowhere for the 42 to go. So the lower class limit of the first class must be at least this small, possibly smaller. Okay. I could start with 42, or in this case, I'm going to use 41 because I've already done that. Okay. Now, once you've decided on the lower class limit for the first class of 41, you need to decide what the lower class limits will be for the remaining classes. Okay. So 41 plus 5 will give you, here's where you use your 5. 41 plus 5 will give you a 46 for the second group, a 51 for the third group, 56 for the fourth group, and 61 for the fifth and final group. So I'm writing here what the lower class limits should be. And if I've done this correctly, that's what you see. 41, 46, 51, 56, and 61. Okay. So now that we've done these 5 steps, or 4 steps, the 5th step is to construct the group frequency distribution, class limits, and class boundaries. CB stands for class boundaries. If you look back at the previous problem, once you know what these numbers are, you can calculate these numbers. Okay? Now we want to find out where the frequencies came from. Okay? I've already been through this. These are our starting numbers. These are the 41. These are the ending upper class limits, lower class boundaries, upper class boundaries, class midpoints. These three columns come from this work. Okay? The sixth step, find another piece of paper here. As I said, this is the most confusing table. Okay. The sixth step is to sort the data and identify how many data values are in each class. Right. Just to remind you, the first group is 41 to 45. So I'll search through and I've got 42 and 44. Those are the two numbers that are in this class. So my first frequency is 2. Okay. For the group from 46 to 50, if the number is between 46 and 50, I count it. So 46, that's 1, 2, 3, and that's how many I'm supposed to have. There were 3 values between 46 and 50. Between 51 and 55, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I find it practical to circle them or cross them out. That way I know I'm keeping up with them, and that allows me to look more easily at what's left over. From 55 to 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is correct. And the only one I haven't crossed out is the one between 61 and 65, which is 63. Okay? So this is the step you use to find the frequencies. And once you find the frequencies, you can find the cumulative frequencies. So here you write down frequency values and calculate cumulative frequency values. And those are the 6 or 7 steps in making the table. Okay. Class limits, class boundaries, frequency, cumulative frequency, and class midpoints. Okay. End video.